Alright, quick note before we start. This is a review on Morbius, and I want to hear your feedback. If you like it, hit that like button. If you dislike it, hit the dislike button. Let me know how you feel down below. And in the comments, I want to hear, how you feel about the movie itself. I want to hear your opinion on it, but I want it to be respectful. Don't be name-calling. Don't be rude to other people down there. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion, and I want this to be a safe space. Thank you. Let's get into the review. So the first thing I want to touch on is Jared Leto, because I know a lot of people are going to compare this performance with his performance as the Joker, and it doesn't matter what he does, right? He is always going to be tied to that stupid, campy, cringy performance. I totally get it. Knowing he was going back in to star as another comic book villain did set off some bells and whistles for me. I wasn't that excited to see him ruin a character that hasn't even been brought to the MCU yet. It did not hype me up very much, but that being said, I watched House of Gucci not that long ago, and I really thought that the way he portrayed his character on there was awesome. I loved the charisma. I loved how fun it was to see him go off the walls, bat crap crazy like that. It was exciting, so I thought that maybe if he could carry that level of acting over to this character, he doesn't have to be that same zany guy, but he did need to act like he cared, act like this character meant a lot to him. And I thought if he could do that, this character could really be something special. And did he really reach those heights for me? I'm not sure. I think that given what he had to work with, given the dialogue, given the writing, given the script, I think he did pretty good. I liked parts that a lot of people aren't going to. I know how his character reacted to gaining powers was very anticlimactic. I know it wasn't fun, it wasn't enthusiastic. He didn't go, oh my god, no. He didn't go out and try to be a superhero or a supervillain or rob a bank or do something he could never do before. This is his first time walking without those crutch things in forever. And it didn't really feel like he cared that much, like he was that excited about it. But at the same time, the character of Morbius is a doctor, is a scientist, is a thinker. And I think that the more logical approach as seeing what just occurred as a gigantic experiment made sense for that character. It may not have been fun, but I think that it was logical and it was a good way to go about it. Now, a character that I really liked was Matt Smith as Milo, and I think he had a lot of fun with that role. And I think the fact that he enjoyed it so much is what made me enjoy seeing him on screen. There's a time where he is dancing, and it might not make sense out of context, but given the fact that he's been walking around with a walking stick for so long, it is really cool to see him actually happy that he can move like this and actually having fun with his newfound powers. And I know that that's what a lot of people wanted for Morbius, but I don't think it would have worked with Morbius as well as it does with Milo. And I think that if Matt Smith ever wants to reprise his role, that I would love to see him. I don't know how they could do it, make it possible, maybe with the multiverse or something, but he would be a blast to see again, and I really like what he did with that character. I didn't like the writing. Same with Morbius. I did not like the writing. The script didn't work for me, but the actor himself was a blast to see on screen, and I really enjoyed seeing him there. I would love to sing praises for every actor in this movie. I would love to say that it's because of the writing that they didn't do a very good job. I would like to say that it's because of the dialogue that I didn't like the characters. But there were two in this movie that no matter how they were written, if they had the same archetype that they have now, if they had the same reason to exist that they have now, I don't think I would have liked them. And I don't know if it's the actors or if it's not. So, welcome to the editing room. I learned after the fact that these guys that I'm about to refer to as police detectives are actually supposed to be FBI agents. So not only are they awful detectives, but they're apparently awful federal agents, because that makes everything better. So I just wanted to let you know, clear up any confusion just in case you are one of the 1% that actually cares. So here you go, the more you know. One of the police officers, one of the detectives that I am referring to, is played by Tyrese Gibson. You know, the funny man in the Fast and the Furious movies. A guy that I've never really seen in a movie that I can take him seriously. I saw Black and Blue, I think is what it's called. And he was not, comedic relief for the whole movie, but he didn't really do enough to get me emotionally invested in him. And I don't know if he's just not a very good actor, or if he just hasn't had the right type of role where they can take out how good he is and use that. But in this movie, he is supposed to be like a driving force. He's supposed to be somebody that can be feared, that can be taken seriously, but he's also supposed to be comedic relief. And having these two different types of like personality traits and mixing them together so we can push the movie forward, it didn't work for me. Because for the comedy, okay, one of the blundering idiots, I do not remember the actor's name, I do not remember the character's name, but it's Tyrese's partner. He's trying to get a cat to come, right? So to do that, he decides he needs to pick up a litter box and shake it around, you know? How we all get cats to come. You just pick up the litter box and you shake it, you know? Is that not how you do it? No? I didn't think so. And that's the comedy. That's about the funniest part in the movie that involves them. They're either doing that, or there's a couple times when they say some really bad puns, some really bad dad jokes, and there was a couple times that I did smile, like I'm not going to say it all didn't land, but none of them made me visibly laugh. There was a few that made me visibly cringe, but none of them that made me visibly laugh. And when it comes to them being detectives, there's a scene in the movie whenever they go onto a crime scene, right? And the first thing they do isn't to gather evidence, it is to barehandedly touch what would be considered evidence. They contaminate a crime scene as detectives, not as rookies, not as patrol officers, not as civilians, as detectives. They actively contaminate a crime scene. And when I saw that in the theaters, it's so blatantly obvious, and if you had any like logic on how that would work in real life, it completely breaks the immersion. And it just didn't work for me. I couldn't take them seriously, and I couldn't take them as comedic relief because I didn't laugh. So I didn't like their character. I don't know if it's the actor's fault. I don't think so. I would love to say that I've seen Tyrese good in other movies, but I haven't. But just because I haven't really seen him do amazing in any other movie doesn't mean that I don't think he's a good actor. Like, I think that he has potential. Like in that Black and Blue movie, I think he had potential. They could have really pulled something good out of there, but they just didn't do it. So I don't know. I don't know the other actor at all, so I can't really comment on that. In that movie, I know that he was trying. It was obvious that he was trying to be funny, but it just didn't land. So I didn't like him. And I hate to say that, but if there's a sequel, I don't want to see him. Unless they can redeem them, I don't want to see him. So I know I've talked a lot about the writing, a lot to defend characters and a lot to bash them. And people are probably wondering, like, what are you talking about? Well, if you've watched any action movie, if you've watched any horror movie, if you've watched any movie ever, there's a lot of hints and a lot of homages, I would call them, to those movies. But it's not in an intelligent way. It's in a way that makes it seem generic. All the horror movie parts, all the things that made me think, oh, this is just like a horror movie, they're all like the more generic horror movies. It's nothing like amazing. It builds tension, but it doesn't really go beyond that. There's no gigantic jump scares, thank God, but nothing that blows me away either. And when it comes to the action and the superhero movie elements, those are pretty generic too. I mean, you've got the generic love interest, you've got the generic, I don't want to go into spoilers, a generic hero versus villain, let's call it that. A generic dynamic between them, something we've seen a million times before. We have generic moral choices, we have generic internal conflicts, we have generic this and generic that. All of it is something that you can predict. Like, if you've seen other movies, when you go in and you watch this, your brain is probably going to think like, whoa, I bet this is going to happen, and then you know what's going to happen. Exactly what you thought. Exactly what you thought. And that really bogs down a movie for me. Like, the horror movie elements, I love that. And I feel like if they expanded upon it, that could have been really good. The superhero elements, there's a lot of incoherent CGI at times. But when he's flying and there's CGI from that, like you see it in the trailer whenever he's flying in front of the train, it does look kind of weird, but I actually think I like it. I think it's cool, I think it's stylistic, and I think that that is something they should keep. But the CGI constantly is not something I enjoyed. I did not like CGI for every action. I didn't like CGI for every movement. I didn't like CGI for every fight. I feel like there was way too much in it. And I don't know if that was like a standpoint where it was the director had to do it, if it was a studio thing, if it was this, if it was that. I don't know if it was written to be CGI filled, if people wanted that. Like, they were like, oh, you're going to jump off this building, and then there has to be this CGI here because it's going to look cool, it's going to look marketable. I don't know. But I wasn't a big fan, and I think that I would have been more okay with the CGI if there was blood. Like, if there was blood with it, I would have liked it more. I don't want the CGI blood, but The way things were going, it looks like that's what we would get. If you would have CGI'd blood in there, though, it would have been better than the bloodlessness that we had. I don't want it to be just practical effects. If we need blood, I'm okay with the CGI. But there wasn't any. And I think that really ruined the movie that is about a bloodthirsty vampire. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. When you cut somebody and they're gurgling on blood and you don't see that blood, it is so obvious. It's sickening. It is so obvious. It's awful. And I don't know whose decision that was. They would have made this rated R, like Fox did with Deadpool. They would have made it rated R. This would have been a really good movie. This would have been something different, something special, something that the MCU doesn't have. And for the Sony universe to have something that the Disney's version of the MCU doesn't have would have been great. It would have been something that Sony needs, something that would have pushed it beyond its boundaries, but it felt like a Venom retread. It had the same CGI that Venom would have. It had the same bloodlessness that Venom would have. It felt like it was trying so hard to play it safe that it didn't really go anywhere, and I did not like that at all. But you don't want to just hear me compare this movie with movies that came before, with movies that are similar. I get that. I really do. So I'm going to talk about this movie right here, right now, on its own merits. The story of this movie on its own merits. And I'm going to do it by talking about how inconsistent it is, by talking about the first scene of the movie. And I'm going to use that to contextualize my point as well as I can, because it's the only scene that wouldn't be a gigantic spoiler. So, the first scene of the movie has Morbius walk up to a cave. He puts his hand up to it, he takes out a knife, he cuts it open. As the blood trickles down, the bats inside the cave start going crazy. They come straight for him. But instead of attacking him, biting him, hitting him, hurting him in any way, shape, or form, they go around him. And that right there is a gigantic inconsistency within the context of the rest of the movie. Because within the movie, after Morbius gets the bat DNA, he also gains their animal instinct. He gains their bloodlust. He gains that thirst for blood. And the fact that he could gain that from them means they must have also had it. So if he is able to barely control his bloodlust while also having a human factor, and these animals do not have that human factor, they do not have any reason whatsoever to let him live, then why do they do it? It doesn't make sense. It is a huge plot hole, a huge inconsistency within the very first scene of the movie. And that's depressing. That honestly makes me sad, because it shows how little love and how little care they put into it. It shows how little they cared about their movie. And the fact that they don't care, and the fact that how little they care is this obvious, it just makes me not care. Why should I care about something that you don't? Why should I find love and find a reason and a way to love something that you obviously don't love? If you do not care enough to really put in the effort and make this movie something that matters to you, why should it matter to me? And I think that's the best way to summarize this movie. Why should I care if it's obvious you didn't? That's Morbius.